Challenging relationships. Hi, I'm Rachel Hudson. I am a life and relationship coach, and I work with empaths. I work with women who have some mama drama. My program is called Ditch the Drama with Your Mama, handling challenging relationships for the holidays, and how to navigate challenging relationships, and really managing your emotions during this fun time of year. It can be kind of a crazy time of year. It can bring up a lot for everybody. And if you don't know about what I've done in the past, I have taught yoga for a very long time. I've been in the self-help, I guess, industry or field for over 20 years. And I'm a master meditation teacher. I'm a Reiki master. So I love energy. And so when I stepped into coaching, this really seemed like a natural move for me, and I really love it. What's a challenging relationship? It's a relationship that you have decided that's challenging. It's going to be personal to you, and you're just remember, you're a difficult person in life, maybe liked or loved by so many other people. You just have a different relationship with this person. You might be the only one to be bothered by this person's behavior. Maybe you're the only person that's uncomfortable around this person. So I'm going to teach you how to handle challenging relationships, especially around the holidays. Now, during the holidays, we find ourselves around people that we might not be around very often. And the problem is maybe it's like old thoughts or old thought patterns, or some of our old patterns show up. I know that for a long time, I would still show up like a little kid mentally or a teenager when I went to my mom's house or when I went to my parents' house. And I'm like, I don't really know. I think that's the way I'm showing up. That's not necessarily on them. So during this workshop, I'm going to show you how to show up at the highest level or your own best version of yourself in all relationships, not just for Christmas Day or whatever party you're showing up to, but I'm going to help you show up for the good relationships and for your challenging relationships. I'm going to teach a bit about relationships, and I'm going to give you some things to stop doing and some things to start doing. So I'm always going to leave you a little bit with an action plan, something that you can take away from this call. And I'm a big fan of Dr. Wayne Dyer. You may have heard of him, but I mean, over the last 25 years, I feel like I've been a student of his for forever. I remember that was my first meditation cassette tape in the 90s. I was like, this is amazing. And then I just, once that floodgate opened, I was off to the races in the self-help realm that I'm in now. And one of my favorite things that really has stuck with me all this time is a quote by Wayne Dyer, and says, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. It's really basically what he's saying is your perception of this reality that we're stepping into, and we can create our own reality. Okay. So I do have some questions for you just to ponder. So you might have a dedicated journal ready. You might just have a piece of paper. You might just have your iPhone out. I like to take notes on my notes app and my iPhone a lot of times if I don't have a sheet of paper. So a question for you, and I've got a couple here. Who do you want to be in these challenging relationships? Maybe this is with your mom. Maybe this is with your partner. Maybe it's your in-laws. I'm lucky enough to I don't have challenging relationships with in-laws. I hit the jackpot in that department. Or maybe it's with your kids. Now, I don't have kids, but I have nephews and I have dog kids, which can drive me bananas sometimes. So, or maybe it's your coworkers. Who do you want to be? Not who you are now and not how they need to change, but who do you want to be in your relationships? The answer is you can start being that person today. And my philosophy is we always get plenty of practice in these relationships. It's what makes us human. It's part of our own human experience is relationships. That's how we operate in the world. It is relationship driven. Another question: what do you think a relationship is? Well, it's a collection of thoughts. And this is something that I learned at the life coach school when I was getting trained. And I was like, that is weird. That is so, I've never looked at it like this before. A relationship is a collection of your thoughts about another person and their collection of thoughts about you. That creates a relationship. Your collection of thoughts drives your behavior when you're around this person. For example, my thoughts about my mom are completely different than my mom's friends, her friends' thoughts about the same person, about my mom. And I find that really fascinating because it kind of goes back to this point of your collection of thoughts about this person creates a relationship. And I also like to think about my thoughts about my two dogs. That's our relationship. I don't know what their thoughts are about me. I think they love me and they think I'm great, but it might just be because I feed them and let them on the couch with me. My thoughts versus someone else's thoughts about my dogs. I used to have a neighbor. She hated my dogs. She's like, they bark all the time. Can't you get they're barking right now. So can't you get a shock collar? So that, those thoughts, based on what she said, created a different thought process towards her. My relationship changed a little bit. Here's another little definition of what is a challenging relationship. Well, it's going to bring up a challenging relationship, your thoughts about a person. It's going to bring up negative thoughts, negative patterns, and behaviors. So I have a very interesting, it might not be conventional. My relationship philosophy is based on a couple of principles that have, up to this point, have shaped my life. Number one, thoughts, not situations, create the feelings that I have about another person. And the feelings that I have about another person is going to drive my actions and my results around this relationship. I'll give you an example. If I were to say, and I've said this before, my mom always says mean things to upset me. That was my thought for the longest time. So that was my thought. And what it really did was it created this closed off feeling, this emotion that was really tight. I would call it animosity. And how did I show up when I was closed off, showing up to events with the family, avoiding being in the same room, or leaving early, or not feeling comfortable to eat the things that I enjoy? I thought that she was saying things to upset me. I was already thinking that. I was ready for the fight. I was already upsetting myself by the time that I arrived. It doesn't feel very good. The second part of the philosophy is like attracts like. You can call it law of attraction, whatever you want to call it. And then I'm like, let's question that thought. And I did a lot of work around this, by the way. So it wasn't like this was a magic solution. I really had to do the work. My coach challenged me to ask myself the question, so what? She's like, so what? Who cares? Now, ask yourself that question. If I thought that she says mean things, I'm going to say my new thing is like, hey, so what? And I like to use this with my clients, and it really gets them out of their story. That story, that story that we're really holding on to for dear life, because that's the only important thing for us. When I ask myself, so what, who cares? It just kind of like shook my brain up a little bit. And when I thought that, so what, who cares? Now I had this thought, she can say whatever she wants because she will. Promise you, she will. And I'm like, you know what? She's going to say the things. Big deal. Who cares? And I felt lighter. So I felt in this, I didn't feel amazing. And so it's not like I'm asking you to go from feeling terrible to feeling like, oh, I just won the lottery, but maybe we can go to neutral, or just this sense of like a little bit of freedom, this open, you want to feel it in your body, this openness. And like, it just didn't feel so closed off when I had that thought. I felt neutral. I felt a sense of freedom, and I showed up different. I'm not leaving the room, but I'm focusing on other people that I love. And guess what? I'm eating whatever I want because I'm enjoying the food, and I'm staying as long as I want. And I have to remember, She's not the only one in the room. I'm there for other people, like my sister and my dad and my nephews and all the other people. I just didn't need to focus on, like, I'm afraid she's going to say something mean. So I'm going to show up in this tight, icky way. But now I'm showing up. I'm doing whatever I want to do. There's this freedom. There's no people pleasing. There's no approval seeking. There's just me enjoying my day. So, listen, the only way, just to reiterate, the only way to navigate a challenging relationship is to change the thinking around it, the behaviors around it, and your feelings and the way you show up. I like to look at it as everybody's your teacher because they're teaching you how to get better. Everyone you encounter is your teacher. Some people that you encounter offer really easy lessons, and those are really not the ones that stand out. But the best lessons are the ones that are pretty challenging to us. So I want you to just think about looking at these encounters as a practice to help you break out of old patterns. I'm going to keep bringing this up. You get practice every day being around other humans. Now, I like to think of this as like the old school video game. As you go into the next level in a video game, you might keep making the same mistake over and over until you learn how to navigate to get you to that next level. And then there's a new level, and it might be something that you have to really change your mindset around. Again, it's going to take some practice. So I'm going to give you 3 things right now to stop doing when you're in a challenging relationship. Some of these I like to call them lazy thinking because that's really what kind of helped me make the change. All right, number 1 is to stop blaming the other person. That is the easiest thing to do, and that is lazy thinking. Blame is assigning fault to somebody else. It's your fault that I feel terrible. If you hadn't done this, then I wouldn't feel this way. Also, blame holds others responsible for how you feel. Like, wow, they have a lot of power. Blame also keeps you stuck in this victim mentality. Now, I want to tell you there's a big difference between victim mentality and vulnerability. And I'll talk about that in another coaching call, but victim mentality feels really gross. It goes into this blame cycle. Blame is an easy and effortless strategy when you feel defensive. Now, that was my go-to emotion for a long time, just getting defensive. Also, blame allows you to continue the behaviors. Your brain loves sameness and it hates to be challenged and it likes to be lazy. Okay. It's just your lazy brain doing the thing. But blame allows you to continue the behaviors that keep you from moving to the next level, evolving in these relationships. Number 2, the thing to stop doing, stop emotional outsourcing. Kind of goes along with blame. It's when you want others to act or behave in a certain way so that you can feel a certain way. It creates controlling and manipulative behavior on your part. Like, if you did this thing, then I'll feel better. It's also really exhausting. It's exhausting because you're trying to control someone else. It's manipulation. It takes a lot of brain work to do. And just remember, we can't control the world, no matter how hard we try. You need to allow people to be who they are and do what they're going to do. And then you have to take responsibility for your own emotional life. You can decide who you want to be in this situation. It takes a little bit of planning ahead of time. Your brain is going to feel like it's broken because it's hard work mentally. But I want you to remember this one thing. When you consider how incredibly difficult it is to change yourself, imagine how hard it is to try to change another person. It's absurd. It's impossible, right? I want you to think about that one. Keep that in your notes. All right, number 3 is stop withholding love. This was one of my go-tos as well. And it felt safe to me. It's almost an instinct to withhold, to protect yourself. I get it. And sometimes we need to protect ourselves. But love is a feeling that you create in you. It's this reciprocal thing. Listen, you can love somebody. They might even not even be here anymore. I've got dogs that have passed away and cats that have passed away, and I'm still like, I love them so much. They're not here. But I get to feel the love. Like when one of my pictures of my cat Bubbles or my dog Jingo pops up on my phone, I just feel the love. They don't have to be here. They don't have to receive anything. I just get to feel the feeling. Now, when you withhold love, you're denying yourself a feeling. And remember, you're the one that feels the lack, not this other person. Now, withholding love, remember, it only hurts you and it only keeps you out of alignment with what you want to be, with who you want to be. So the three stops are the things to stop doing in challenging relationships: stop blaming, stop emotional outsourcing, kind of lazy thinking, right? And then stop withholding love. You get to feel love in any situation. All right, so now I'm going to give you the three changes that will enhance your relationships. Yes, even the challenging ones. Number one is to manage your mind. I know we don't want to do it. It hurts. It's not fun. It's so dang uncomfortable, but it works every time. How you feel, remember, is a result of how you are thinking, right? If you're thinking this person a jerk, you're not going to feel very good. And when you don't feel very good, you don't act in ways that feel very good, right? You kind of act in a closed off way. So, no matter what another person does, how you feel is a result of your thoughts about this person. You get to decide what you focus on, the thoughts that you entertain, and the behaviors that you exhibit. Now, I used to have a lot of really terrible thoughts about my mom. God bless her. She's like, I was just being a mom. I don't know. But I was challenged to find 10 things that I loved about my mom. Now, I was like, now it's easy. I'm like, she's hilarious. She'll answer her phone anytime I call. She would drive 2 hours to come help me do something. She has a beautiful house. We call it the museum. But she keeps her, I'm like, I don't know how she does it. It's just like a mystery. And this is like this really cool mom thing. Her house always smells delicious. It smells like vanilla and cinnamon and very homey. I mean, there's a ton of things I love about her, but for the longest time, I only wanted to focus on the way I was feeling about her. So make feeling good a priority over how another person is behaving. Maybe she's had a bad day and I just got to hear about it. So what? So I have a few questions for you. They're called challenging person questions, and you could put anybody's name in here. So when you think about one person, and I've got 6 questions for you, how do you feel about this person? How do you feel about them when you're around them? Number 2 is what judgments are creating these feelings. Just be honest. Once you're honest and once you write it down, you're like, come on, I can't believe I'm thinking that. Number 3 is how do I want this person to be different? How do I want them to change? Because we always think it's the other person. If they would just change, then I would be so happy. Let me tell you, you would not be happy. If they changed everything right now, then what? You would not have anything to complain about. Okay? I'm just being honest. Number 4, if this person changed, what would it offer me? These changes. Maybe you think they're judgmental. What would this offer me if they were not so judgmental? And make a list. I have lots of things to say about this one because number 5 is going to blow your mind. Now you need to write down, how can I give this to myself? Insert, how can I be less judgmental? Ouch, that hurts. That stings. But it's also, I think about this and I learned this in yoga from my teacher. And he's like, I'm just holding up a mirror so you can see it. How could I give this to myself? How could I be less judgmental? And the last question on this challenging person question is number 6 is, what lesson is this person trying to teach me? What can I learn from them? Maybe it's, I could be less judgmental around them. Maybe I could learn I'm able to pull all of the bad things that I think about this person away so that I can focus on their good qualities. You might be in the headspace of like, well, they don't have any good qualities. Sometimes we have to go, the good quality is they're a human and I'm capable of loving a human. Sometimes we got to start at the bottom. I get it. There are people in our lives that we think are terrible, evil people. That's okay. All right. So change number 2, but look for positive aspects. And we want to remind you that what you focus on expands. My mom's hilarious. She can make me laugh. She reminds me of one of the women on Dynasty. She has the humor of Lucille Ball. So it was like a little combination effect. That's what I love about her. She's really funny. Focusing on what annoys you about this person, you're only asking your brain to see the things that annoy you. Ask me how I know, because I did it. I did it. And guess what? I was miserable with that because I saw it kind of seep into my other relationships. I saw it seep into my life. I was looking for the things that annoyed me. Maybe you're that person. Maybe you know that person. Okay. Maybe you know somebody like that in your life. So again, what you focus on expands. If you're always annoyed by this person, your annoyance is going to grow. Focusing on someone else's bad behavior, you're only seeing the bad behavior. Your brain is like wired to look for sameness, look for patterns. You can't get to a good feeling by focusing on the things that make you feel bad. You might, if you can't do that, you might have to just start with a neutral. They're a human. Sometimes we got to just start there. That's okay. Now, I did have a question that was emailed to me. What if she says, a certain someone is just difficult to love? I'm going to tell you, I support you no matter what. And I do have some advice. Do whatever you need to do to take your attention off of that person who is bringing up those challenging thoughts and focus on other things that bring you love. Go back to what I know. And I'm going to tell you, this works. I had to go back to like the basics, my 5 senses, mindfulness, exercise. Okay. So imagine you're at a holiday party or your family get together, Christmas or whatever, and someone throws you a zinger. Okay. That's what I call them. Like sometimes people can just throw this zinger at you and you get caught and you're like, oh my God, I don't know how to answer this question. You're just going to take a step back and breathe through your nose. What I want you to do is think of something that you can identify with your smell. Like sometimes it's like the smell of Christmas, the smell of food cooking. What can you hear? Maybe it's Christmas music in the background. Okay. Maybe your eyes can focus on something like the beautiful holiday decorations, or maybe maybe you like cinnamon tea. Maybe you've got something to eat or drink. Just really hyper focusing on the in the moment. They're going to say what they're going to say. That is one little, I call it an escape hatch a little bit if someone does that. And that's possible. So this helps you recalibrate your brain a little bit from going into panic mode into like, people are going to say things. So what? So you can recalibrate yourself. And over time, you'll get used to like, hey, I've got these little tips and tricks in my back pocket. I can use them. Love yourself through this process. If someone says something and it brings up something in you, you're like, you know what? I love myself. I've gotten this far. Make your top 10 list. Like, you know what I love about myself? I'm funny. I love good food. I'm glad to be here. This other person may be a little challenging, but I can kind of put them in a bubble. Now, I will say I 100% support you if you need to go no contact with a person. If that's what you need to do, I support you. And I know you have your reasons. Plan ahead of time, though. If you're going no contact, plan around like, hey, if you're not going to this gig because someone else is going to be there, I would love for you to have a plan B. Treat yourself to something nice. Do something sweet and nice and kind for yourself. Maybe take yourself out to dinner. Maybe make a new friend. Maybe watch your favorite holiday movies. Order some Chinese takeout, whatever you want to do. If you need to do that, I support you. I support you. And number 2, if you need to take a break from this person, sometimes we need to hit the pause button and just like, listen, we do not need to talk 5 times a day. I will talk to you on Saturdays, or I'll talk to you when I can. I need a break. And it's okay to tell people that you need a break. In my experience, I think they appreciate that. You know what? I need a break. And you know what? I appreciate people for telling me the truth. Like if I'm ready to do something, they're like, oh my gosh, it's just been the craziest week. I just can't. And they don't owe me an explanation. I feel really good when people can be that honest. I'm like, good for you. I'm so glad that you are doing that for you. And number 3, I support you if you need to see less of this person. Like whether it's like, I'll just have to get back to you. I don't know. Or let's talk on Saturdays. So I support you if you go no contact, you need to take a infinity break from this person, or if you need to see this person less often. Okay. Another thing that you can change or shift in your relationship is create your smart boundary. And I've talked about this on numerous podcasts. Creating your smart boundary. One of my coaches calls it your red velvet rope policy. I love that. Is one of my favorite things to use. I might steal it from her because it just feels good. It's like, that's my policy. Your smart boundary defines what is allowed and what is not allowed. Some people just don't have boundaries. I don't think we need to go around telling people like, don't go through my things. I think most people know, but sometimes we have to tell people. So, but without boundaries, we end up feeling used, mistreated, resentment grows. Think about if I catch somebody going through my purse or my journal and I never say anything, I'm going to feel really weird. First of all, not taking care of myself. And then just like not saying anything would just not, I like to think of like my Apple Watch, how they have the circles closed. And that's kind of like a dopamine hit to my brain. I love closed circles. Like there's this thing that's still hanging out there, but I need to close it up by saying, if you do this again, we will not have a relationship. Or if you do this again, you will not come to my house. Okay. You need to call me before coming over. Do not come over unannounced. I love that doormat that says, my mom's like, I'm going to get this for you. Like, did you call first? That pretty much sums it up. And that's just a personal boundary. Some people are like, walk in whenever. Totally fine. That is just not me. Now, healthy boundaries are created for you to feel good and safe and be okay with saying it. Here's some more examples of a healthy boundary. For me, I'm like, I just need alone time. Nobody's offended. If they are, they don't tell me. That's their own thing if they're offended. But if someone tells me I need alone time, I'm like, I get it. Or I'm not available to talk on the phone on certain days. Like if I answer the phone every time a family member calls, I love it. And that's my toxic trait. I will answer the phone if my sister calls. I don't take coaching calls before 9 a.m. I get up at like 4:30 and I do all of my me stuff because it's important to me. And I think it's okay. So far, people really respect that. The first thing they say is like, I can't believe you get up so early. Another one is like, it's unacceptable to yell at me. That doesn't happen in my life because we're not a shouty family. But when I did own my yoga studio, I had a few people shout at me and they were gone. However, I will say it was never a woman that shouted at me. It was always a man. I don't know why. Didn't like my policy or wanted to make his own rules or come behind the front desk or snoop around my office. I'm like, whoa, hang on, what's going on? Or I changed a schedule. Someone yelled at me for changing a schedule. I'm like, if you're going to yell, you can't come back. Here's your refund, go. And it felt good. It didn't feel like I was doing anything wrong, but I'm like, that is my policy and it should be everybody's policy. No yelling. Real quick, how to set a healthy boundary. I do have some podcasts on it. I do have some lessons on it. Number one, state the boundary. Number two is clearly state the response. If you do this, here's what's going to happen. And I will tell you the hardest part is number three, follow through. Absolute hardest part. Like, yeah, but I said I wasn't going to invite him over again, but I really want to. Another one is if you ask me to blank, then I'll say no. And I use the example of rob a bank. So think of something really clear and just start practicing that. If you ask me to rob a bank, I will say no. My new adult phrase is, I'm not doing that. And people are like, okay, I'm not doing that. Just a reminder, set this boundary out of respect and love for you first, not out of anger and resentment. So you might need to take some time, work on that a little bit. If you want some coaching, you can always schedule your coaching sessions or do a consultation with me. So listen, final note. I'm just going to wrap this up in a pretty little bow. This 100% starts with you. Starts with you. Navigating challenging relationships starts with creating healthy relationships with yourself first. I know we think it's other people, but it's us first. Many of the things that we find challenging in other people, it's probably something we need to work on ourselves. Not showing up on time, not respecting other people's time, that type of thing. Just see where you've got that also in you, maybe just a little bit. Do this work on yourself first. Now, I have some final questions, some beautiful questions for you to consider for you to do on yourself. It's one question, but it's got a lot of little sub questions. How do you navigate the challenging times with yourself? Times when you don't follow through, raising my hand, when you've had a tough day, when I haven't eaten and get snarky with people, how do I deal with that? When I've had a rough day, how do I navigate this? Okay. How do I navigate challenging times with myself when I've broken promises? Like when I said I was going to go for a walk because I was going to feel 10 million times better. And I'm like, yeah, but I want to watch BritBox. That's my thing. I'm not a Netflix. I'll watch Netflix, but BritBox is my thing because I love it so much. Breaking promises to yourself. How often do we do that? And then we get mad at other people for breaking promises. Let's look at ourselves first. When you don't reach your goals, I think goals, we don't really need to use our goals against ourselves. But how are we showing up when we don't reach our goals? Whether it's sales goal, whether it's an exercise goal, relationship goals, are we kind of too hard on ourselves? Maybe we're hard on other people. And this is my favorite one because it's very familiar. How do I navigate challenging times when I'm in a bad mood? When I'm cranky, crabby, and salty, how do I do it? I probably need to eat or go for a little walk. Not a power walk, just to clear out the cobwebs. Okay. I enjoyed this so much. If you have any questions, let me know. I would love to work with you one-on-one. If you're ready, I'm ready. I will see you guys next time. Bye.